Has a parent ever sought your help after being the cause of your struggles? Ever wonder when a parent who's torn your life apart comes back begging for a hand? Well, that's my story. I've been stuck with just my mom since I was 14 years old. My folks split up after years of yelling and fighting that I got so used to, I figured every family was a mess like ours. After they called it quits, my dad took off to France. Word is, he built himself a whole new life over there, complete with a new family. Me? I stayed back with my mom. She didn't waste time getting hitched again, this time to some big-shot businessman loaded with cash. He had 2 kids already, twins, a couple years older than me. We packed up and moved into his place, a giant, fancy mansion that looked like something out of a movie. It was full of rooms and packed with pricey stuff, artifacts and decorations only rich folks can afford. You'd think moving into money like that would fix everything, but nah, it was the total opposite. Every single day, I found myself wishing I'd gone with my dad instead. My mom didn't care about me one bit. She'd vanish for days, probably forgetting she even had a kid. All she gave a damn about was hitting up high-class parties with her new husband, decked out in fancy outfits, living it up in a pile of money. That's all that mattered to her, the cash. Meanwhile, I was heading into my 2nd year of high school, feeling like a total outcast. I didn't have any real buddies, got picked on all the time, and was dealing with some heavy stuff, depression and an eating problem called anorexia nervosa. It was plain as day, but nobody noticed, not even my own mom. Living with my step-siblings wasn't any picnic either. My stepsister, Jane, loved making me feel like trash. She'd rub it in my face that I didn't belong in their world, saying my mom was just chasing gold. She'd knock me around, tripping me, shoving me, you name it. If I tried to say something, my mom would jump in, take Jane's side, and tell me to shut up. "What are you doing, huh? Trying to ruin this sweet deal we've got?" she'd snap. She was the one soaking up the good life, not me. My stepbrother, Jake, didn't mess with me much. He acted like I wasn't even there, which I was honestly thankful for. But none of them gave a hoot about me. The one guy who seemed to care, who I wish I'd never trusted, was my stepdad's brother, Isaac. He was this slick, grinning type, always chasing skirts, and for some reason, he kept hanging around me. He'd plop down next to me, try to chat, and it creeped me out. He swore he was worried about me, said he'd talk to my mom about my eating issues and all the crap I was going through. I clung to that promise cause I was desperate for help, especially with my mom acting like I didn't exist. She figured tossing me some monthly cash was enough to keep me going. Fast forward to my senior year, 12th grade, and my mom and her husband threw a big bash at the house for their 5-year anniversary. Jane and Jake were off at Cambridge by then, middle of the school term, so they weren't around. That left me as the only kid in that huge place. That's when Isaac pulled his move. He tricked me into a guest room, saying he just wanted to check on me, and then he attacked me. I can't even piece it all together, it happened a bunch of times, and I passed out from the shock after he left me there. Next thing I know, I'm waking up in my own room. My mom's sitting there, staring at me with this weird, worried look I'd never seen on her face before. She knew what went down, I'm sure of it, cause she'd changed my clothes and asked if I was okay. I broke down right then, sobbing, and threw myself into her arms, spilling everything. She just patted my head, said it'd be alright, then grabbed a new dress from behind her and told me to hurry up and put it on. We had to go outside for a family picture, my stepdad was waiting. I couldn't believe my ears, couldn't wrap my head around how she was acting. I'd just been assaulted, and all she cared about was keeping up appearances. I tried to fight it, but I was too weak. She forced me into that dress and dragged me downstairs for the photos. The whole time, I'm crying my eyes out, and she's telling me to smile, wipe my face, act normal. My legs were shaking from the pain down there, my whole body hurt, and I thought I'd collapse any second. She stood there with Isaac, both of them faking grins like nothing happened. The place was crawling with people, it was a huge deal. Then came the part where I had to give a speech for my folks. I step up on that stage, lock eyes with Isaac smirking at me, and I lose it. I start yelling about what he did to me, how I'd been assaulted, how my mom didn't even care. I was ready to tell the whole crowd everything, but the staff yanked me off, and my mom hauled me inside. Soon as we're out of sight, she slaps me hard across the face. She's screaming that I don't get what I've done, going on about what people will think, mostly worried about her husband getting mad. I'm standing there, stunned at how she's acting. Then my stepdad storms in, pissed off, grabs my dress, and starts beating the hell out of me right in front of her. She just turns her head. He's punching, slapping, leaving me covered in bruises. When he's done, he tells me to pack my stuff and get out. Says I'm a liar, a troublemaker, never happy with the good life, trying to tear him down by dragging his innocent brother into it. That night, after everyone's gone, they kick me to the curb. I end up homeless, bouncing between shelters just to sleep and eat. I barely scraped through high school, but I make it. My mom's got my number, but she never bothers to call, not once. After a few weeks, I land a job flipping burgers at a fast food place. The people there, my boss, my coworkers, they're decent folks, help me out a little. I save up enough to cover college application fees. One night, after nearly getting jumped again at a shelter and walking away with a black eye, they let me crash in the back room of the joint. I bust my ass studying, picking up extra gigs to stay afloat. Luck finally swings my way. I get into the University of Chicago with a full scholarship and some financial aid. I scrape together everything I've got, buy a plane ticket, and head there. It's tough, but I pull it off. Once I'm on campus, I take whatever jobs I can find to keep going. I'm doing alright, trying to leave my mom and all that mess behind, focusing on getting my life together. I hit up some free therapy sessions they offer, and it helps. Slowly, I start working on that eating disorder too. So, I'm in my final semester as a sophomore at the University of Chicago when I bump into Jake out of nowhere. Talk about a shock, especially for him. He didn't figure he'd run into me there and asks if I want to grab a coffee. It's kind of weird, but I say sure, why not? It had been 3 years since all that mess went down, and he'd heard the story when he visited home last. He tells me he's real sorry for what I went through. I'm surprised he ain't sticking up for his dad. Guess Jake's not such a bad guy after all. We sit there, and he fills me in on a bunch of stuff. Says his sister, Jane, got banged up in a car wreck last year and has been stuck in a hospital, rolling around in a wheelchair ever since. Then he drops that his old man's business is tanking, and he split up with my mom. Jake's done with that whole crew now that he's graduated, setting up his own life here in Chicago. Only one he still talks to is Jane. I'm sitting there, jaw dropped, trying to process all this. He keeps saying sorry for everything, but honest to God, I don't hold nothing against him. We swap numbers and plan to meet up for lunch in a couple days. Lunch day rolls around, and Jake shows up with this guy, Thomas, who's a year older than me. Turns out Thomas is a psychologist, and Jake's got him there to offer me some free therapy sessions to deal with my eating disorder and all the junk I've been carrying around. That's when I start seeing Jake like he's family, like a brother, you know? We'd both grown up a bit, and I'm thankful he's got my back. Me and Thomas hit it off too, and before long, we're dating. Meanwhile, Jane's fighting hard but ends up passing away a few months later. I don't go to the funeral, can't stomach facing that family, my mom included, and Jake gets it, no hard feelings. I keep my head down, grind through school, and walk away with a finance degree. Right after that, Thomas pops the question, and I say yes. We tie the knot quick, with Jake standing up as my best man. His fiancée, a real sweet gal, is my bridesmaid. For a wedding gift, Thomas pulls off something wild. He tracks down my dad in France and flies him over for the party. I'm a mess when I see him, tears everywhere, hugging him tighter than I ever thought I could. Turns out he'd been trying to get in touch all these years, but my mom blocked him every time. I meet his new wife and family, and for the first time in forever, I'm happy, surrounded by good folks who actually care. Thomas and I snag a house near Jake's place, and him and his fiancée pitch in to get it fixed up. Takes just a few days, and we're set. One afternoon, the guys head into town, leaving me home with Jake's fiancée. I'm a couple months pregnant by then, and she's dead set on helping out around the place. We're in the kitchen when the doorbell goes off, and I shuffle over to see who it is. There's my mom, standing there looking like she's been through hell, hair a mess, clothes all tore up. I'm so stunned I can't even talk for a minute, just staring at her, not believing she's here. She reaches out for a hug, but I step back fast. All the rage from years past comes rushing up as I glare at her. She's bawling on my porch, begging me to let it go, saying her husband dumped her, kicked her out with nothing, and she's been scraping by, homeless, till she heard I was doing alright and tracked me down. Not once does she say sorry for all the crap she put me through or what happened to me. Same old selfish mom, only showing up 'cause she needs something. When she asks to crash at my place, I bust out laughing, can't help it. She's got no shame, not an ounce of decency. I unload everything I've been holding in, how I'm glad life's finally catching up with her, her ex, and pretty soon Isaac too. I tell her she ain't part of my world no more, my life's just me, my husband, our kid on the way, Jake and his wife-to-be, and my dad. She's nothing but a stranger, and I want her off my land right now. You believe she tries flipping it, calling me ungrateful? When she won't budge, I grab my phone, call the cops, and watch them haul her off, out of my sight for good.